Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Swiping Stories here at Kindu. We're really excited to have all of you here today, and I'm super pumped to have our guest, Barclay Stockett, on today. Barclay is a 5-time American Ninja Warrior. She also has mentored the junior American Ninjas and is just an all-around fantastic person. I'm excited for all of you to get to spend some time with her today. I've known Barclay now for over a year, definitely, and is definitely one of my favorite influences. So, well, great having you here. Thanks for joining us today. Who's the dog? Introduce everyone to your dog.
This is Nora. She is 7 months old, and she is like the light of my life. She's a super snuggly baby. This is like the only place she ever wants to be is like on my lap. So
that's great.
This is how I take all of my work calls.
As you should. Having a dog is always better. So, hey, brands, pay attention here that Nora is always in Barclay's lap. So she probably needs some stuff that you can do. So that's great. Well, Barclay, I want to dive right in. Yeah, Nora the Ninja, Becky Barrister from Michigan says. Yeah, she's doing stunts. Let's see some stunts.
She's ready. She's ready for her close-up.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So, Barclay, tell us a little bit more. Like, how does someone become even a ninja to begin with? And, tell us your story of like, how did you become an American Ninja Warrior? It's like something I think a lot of people want to do, but nobody actually can do. But you're one of the people who can do it. So, tell us about that.
I like accidentally became a ninja, to be honest. It was, I didn't even really know what Ninja Warrior was the very first time I walked into a gym that had obstacles. And I had retired from gymnastics like 3 years prior, and it was just a bump on a log and wasn't really excited about working out and wasn't excited. I just like, the only thing I really liked was gymnastics when it comes to training and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to run. Please, like, let me do anything but run, And so, like, I just was, I was actually, like, watching some of my cousins try to find something fun for them to do. And they were like, can we go to a ninja gym? And I was like, what in the world is a ninja gym? Like, I've never heard of this. And I went with them, and I was able to do the salmon ladder on, like, my second attempt.
That's wild.
And like, I was able to do, like, the jumping spider and like a lot of the iconic Ninja Warrior obstacles, like I was able to get my first time there. I'd never trained for it, and I was just kind of natural at it, and I was like, oh cool, like one day maybe I'll do this. But it felt like it didn't feel real when I said that. It was kind of just like one of those like
sure,
one day, hypotheticals. Because I don't think I realized that you can just apply for TV shows. I don't know how I thought that reality TV works in my head, but like I had never thought about doing anything but maybe like Fear Factor. I always grew up thinking that was super cool. But yeah, I just like a year later, I was like, you know what? I miss training. I miss working out. Like, I'm going to go start doing that just for fun, like just to get fit again and all that. And then I got really good at it really fast. I made it to like the national finals for a brand new Ninja Warrior League, my first year competing. And then I was accepted onto the show the first time I applied. And then I've been on 5 seasons, and it's like time just goes by so fast. Like, I can't believe like I've been doing it for so long, and it's affected my life in so many ways. Like, my whole life has been shaped, since I started Ninja by Ninja and the opportunities that it's brought me.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's really, I think the thing that I remember when the first time I saw your page was how crazy it was that you could do the salmon ladder with like such ease. And then all of the stuff that you do that is like pure upper body on there. That's just like, it's nuts. And the thing that I noticed is that, at the time, I think you had like maybe 60 to 70,000 followers, but you would get like 10,000 views on, somebody on one of your like workout videos of you doing the salmon ladder or whatnot. And it was just like the engagement levels were just like through the roof and wild. And then I immediately saw why it was so great, because I couldn't stop watching. I was like, okay, I want to see this, but I want to go look at all of the other stuff that you do on there. Which obstacle is the hardest for you to do?
Oh, well, like the jumping spider that's in Vegas on stage 1 you basically jump into it and you're like a starfish inside of it, holding yourself up. And I know the dimensions of it, and I know like how long like my wingspan is, and I only have a 2-inch margin of error if I land on my fingertips. Like I'm like, and I have to, if I have like my hands flat, like there's no way I can land inside of it. Like I have to catch myself like with my fingertips just stretched out. And so like that one, I've never fallen on it. I've made it like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4. Like I've made it every single time, but it gives me like a heart attack every time I do it, because I know like I'm the smallest person who's ever made it. So that one's probably like the hardest when it comes to like accuracy most of the time for me. But then there's also some balance ones that are just crazy. Like there's one called the tuning forks, and like you're running across it and they're connected. Like you have steps that are all connected. And as soon as you step on the first one, the second one spins. So you kind of have to be like ready for like where you were going to put your foot, like it's no longer there. And so I fell on that one. That one I went
I don't know
down.
how you don't fall on all of them. So that sounds great. Like, because you're pretty short. Comparatively to some of like the guys, obviously, of course. Yeah. But if you only have 2 inches, how tall are you, Barclay?
I'm just 5 foot.
Yeah. So the fact that you can do like the warp wall or any of this stuff is like super wild to, I think, everyone in the audience there. That's really interesting. And actually it reminds me of one of the jobs that we did with you for Reset. You actually did climbing walls. I would imagine like with your fingertips, you incorporate it. You've got to do a lot of climbing wall stuff. So rock climbing, anything climbing related is probably very relevant to you in general. But with Reset, you specifically did this whole thing. Maybe you talk through like how you set that up a little bit. That was a really interesting campaign piece that you did.
Yeah. I mean, well, like that whole brand's idea is resetting your stress, like learning how to manage it. And one way that I manage my stress is exercise. And that's something that they really push to, is like really getting out there and exercising, because it's just so good for you mentally and physically. And so I wanted to incorporate a way that I typically every day try to manage stress. And so that was, really cool, because I had a rock wall available. And then I just created like some fun pieces of paper and stuff that like are kind of hurdles, like, or obstacles that you're trying to get past whenever you're stressed out. And that was a pretty cool, and we should link that somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Julia, if you can grab that for us on there. It's an older post, but we can definitely look for it. And if not, we'll send it out to everyone afterwards, because it's one of my favorite in there.
Yeah, that one took all day. Like I was, the process of like content creating is a lot more complex than when you just see it online as the finished product. Like I mean, I know I spent at least 1 or 2 days shooting, editing, actually doing the climbing on the walls, and then there was a ton of shots that, and a ton of ideas that I tried before that didn't work. That just like the brand never saw it, because I was like, this isn't good enough. They all ended up, getting deleted, but it's a lot that you have to kind of fail at and try before presenting it and before it makes its way onto your grid.
Yeah. Actually one of the things that stands out from one of the first times that you and I talked, and one of the reasons I was like, yeah, please join our network on here, was, you were talking a lot about the professional level of like the photography, videography, the effort that you put in. Walk us through because I think a lot of brands don't really understand the amount of time and effort that it goes into to create a campaign. Like on average, you're posting, I know for like Steady MD, which we'll talk probably a lot about here shortly, but you're posting like once a month for them roughly.
Mm-hmm.
To know like in the content that you're creating, how long does it take you to come up with that, especially at the beginning versus like now that you've been with Steady MD for very long time period. It's probably easier today than it was several years ago because you just run into ideas and you're always thinking about them. But still, like, talk us through that process of like, how long does it take from ideation to post?
Yeah, well, like, so with SteadyMD, I've been with them for 2 years now, working with them monthly, and still getting great engagement on posts, especially because the pandemic made, like e-medicine so much more popular, being able to talk to a doctor without having to physically go in. And so I talk a lot about that. I mean, with companies that you align with, it's really not that difficult to come up with ideas. It's more difficult to do the editing and figure out the wording that you want to use, and how do I make this not just apply to me, but enticing to the followers and something that the followers can actually use, or it will improve their quality of life. And that's what's really important for me is I'm trying to improve my quality of life through SteadyMD, because I have health issues, and so it's a brand that I love so much because it really does benefit me and has changed my life a lot. And so like I want to give that to others. But yeah, like with SteadyMD, for instance, like in the beginning, I used it to start educating my followers about autoimmune diseases. And there's one video of me waking up from anesthesia after I had a procedure, and it's kind of like a lighthearted, fun way of being like, I wouldn't have gotten here to this point where I'm getting answers without this company. And so everything's authentic. I really want to make sure that like my followers can trust me and believe me when I say that something's good. And that's why I'm really picky with who I work with. And, but yeah, when it comes to, sorry, I'm like saying so many things. I don't think I remember what you asked about, but between editing, brainstorming, talking with the brands, emailing back and forth. I mean, a single post probably has, depending on if it's a photo or a video. If it's a video, I've probably put like 20-ish hours of work into it, between shooting, brainstorming, all the emails, getting approval. The editing is the biggest thing because I'm very meticulous about the editing on videos and such.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, you can see like Anna Bailey in the comments here is like, wow, right? I don't think anyone realizes that, what a full-time job this is on top of the job that you actually have, right? Too. And then the warrior and all of that stuff that you're doing there to make the time for it. So really fantastic. And I posted the link of you coming out of anesthesia in the comments as well. The folks can check it out, because one of the things I love is like how authentic you are too. And like you shared a lot of your life over the past year. We'll dive a little bit into that too, but tell me a little bit more about, your selection process with it, and give us an example. You don't have to obviously name the company, but a time where you have gotten a product that you were like, this isn't going to work. How important is it to you? Because, I know that you make a pretty decent amount of money for these posts, but I know you also turn down a lot of stuff. So I would imagine that that's a hard decision either way. Talk to us about why it's important to turn things down, and why brands should be happy that you turned it down, maybe, versus post about it at all.
Yeah. So I always like to either try the service or try the product before I am telling other people that they should. So I typically give myself a couple of weeks, or if it's a service, maybe like more closer to like a month before I'm actually like advocating for that brand. And the reason is sometimes you get something in the mail, especially if it's like an edible product, protein powders, like stuff like that. Sometimes they're just gross. And it's like sometimes I'm super excited based on the way that a brand's Instagram looks. And then like, they're like, hey, can we send you something? Maybe we can work together. And I'm like, yeah, send it to me. Let's try it out. I'll let you know. And then I try it and I like throw it away. And I'm like, I'm so glad, that I have this kind of vetting process. So there's been several like protein powders. I mean, there's some that I really love, but and I did work
Yeah.
with them, but the ones that I didn't like everything just ended up in the trash. And it's like, if I did just accept that money and like post about it, my followers would not trust me anymore to be telling them about quality products. But one that was like a closer, like the most recent one was a scale that's supposed to measure like your BMI and bone density and like all this stuff, specifically kind of like for athletes. And I do that regularly, like whether it's on military bases or like bulletproof labs in LA. And so like I'm really familiar with what my norm is. And so I got this scale in the mail and I tried it out, and it links to your phone. You've got an app and all this stuff. And I was super excited because then I don't have to, like just check like once a month or something. Like I could check, or just more frequent check-ins, maybe able to see like progress faster. And I checked it and it was like 20 points. Like my BMI was like 20 points over what the regular is on all these different.
That's a lot. That's a big
I was like, did I gain like a bunch? Like what happened? But then I was like, no, this is just, I look exactly the same. Like, like I'm fine, and so I emailed them back and I was like, hey, I don't think we're going to work. I don't feel like your scale is as accurate as I would like to see if I was promoting it. And so, I can send this back to you. And, if I had given them a review, I would have felt a little bit of dissonance. I would not have felt right about it. And it would not have been the best work I could have done, for that company. So I know that like, if I'm excited and like just hype about working with a brand, the advertisements and the content is just going to be so much better. And like my excitement is going to come through. And so that's, those are the only brands I really want to work with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So a couple of quick questions that are coming from the audience. So some folks want to know, first, do you have a favorite protein powder? And I would imagine you have to have something that you like absolutely love and use all the time.
I have one that I used to use all the time. But I've actually gotten away from protein powders, and
okay.
I'd love to work with a company if anyone, holla at your girl, but I'm mostly just cooking, trying to get all my protein from food right now. So I don't really have anybody that I would say like I'm really excited about or that I even use anymore. I'm just getting protein from food at the moment.
Okay, cool. And then, someone said like, hey, do you ever tell the brand that the product's gross? Like, do you give that feedback? And like, how do you do that? Because I've had to give this feedback to brands before. And it's definitely a sensitive conversation to say like the influencers hate your product. So how do you do it with them?
Delicately. I also want to be really honest because feedback is necessary for growth. And being, you don't want to be overly critical, but you also want the brand to understand why you don't want to work with them. And sometimes I'm just like, I just don't think it's right for me. I'm not really sure if it's just like a preference thing, but I just didn't enjoy your product. And
it's like the best you can do, I think. I mean, I've been in the situation. I try to give them like the concrete feedback and leave anything that seems like personal or not nice out, usually too, but just like tell them like the way we see it. One other one that's on here that I think is a great one is like, do you ever warn followers if you find a product that you don't like? And I don't necessarily even think that, and this question might be this, but my add-on to that is not necessarily a brand who's like has sent you something and said, can you review it? But just in general, if you're like, have a bad experience, is that something you ever like put out there at all?
No, I mean, I like to focus on positive things. I don't think I've ever been like, don't buy this, you know. But it's just not really my style. I way would rather promote someone who deserves it than like ridicule someone who's like trying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. They're out there hustling, right? Everyone's trying to
Yeah.
make a buck in this world, for sure. So another great question on here that I'm going to add to is like, how do you deal with your life being so public? So like you've had probably the craziest 2020 of anybody I know on there. I mean, obviously you dealt with a lot. So I know like you lost your mom last year. You came out. You've had a lot of like health issues. You've worked a lot, you know, like just tell me, you started a nonprofit. I mean, you did like, oh, well, it's not a nonprofit, but Associates Nonprofit, we'll talk about more, but like, how do you keep going? And all of this has been online. Every piece of this is like public information. How do you deal with that? But also like, how has your audience evolved and changed with you over time? Like since you were like 40,000 followers to where you are today, I feel like it's gotta be completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I I notice definitely in the last year, um, posting about like my mom was something that was just like cathartic for me. And then kind of after all of that, just sharing some really raw, like super vulnerable things, I was like, you know what? I'm a sharer. Like I like to share. I like to put my thoughts out there. I like to put my poetry out there. Like I like to put my unpopular opinions out there. I like to put everything out there. And so I mean it was really hard to be in the closet and be a
Yeah.
sharer, or like maybe even like an oversharer, I would call myself. Someone asked me on a Q&A yesterday on my Instagram like story, like why did you decide to come out publicly? And I was like, because I want to share everything. Like I want to tell everybody, like I want to share like the recipes that I'm making that are really good, and I like all of the things. So of course I want to share like the most important person in my life with the, you know, people who care about my life and are constantly checking in with me and like asking how I'm doing and all of that. But yeah, definitely like I felt like I don't know if it was all of these people who also have experienced loss were already following me, or if they started following me because they were seeing my posts about grief and poems about my mom and stuff like that, and it resonated with them. But I feel like I have such a community on Instagram of people who, you know, like are bereaved as well. And then, you know, just in the last, I came out in June, so just over 2 months ago is when I came out as bisexual. And I feel like, again, I'm like, I don't know if all these people have been here or if now they're coming because they're excited and like they, you know, we relate to each other. But I mean, coming with everything that is kind of controversial, which that shouldn't be. There are going to be people coming in, people leaving. But you know, I read something really cool yesterday that I actually like wanted to share. And it's, I don't know who Joel Brown is, but he's the one who like tweeted this. He said, next time you're wondering if it's worth speaking up and sharing truth in fear of losing followers, just remember that real, loyal, community driven people respect courage more than anything in a world full of lies. And like that's how
Yeah.
I feel like that's how I feel like the majority of my followers have been. They've been like, we would rather hear your real thoughts and like who you actually are than you pretend to be someone else or like believe something else so that we stay, you know? And so like I know like when I came out, I think I lost like 1,000 to 2,000 followers. And but the numbers look pretty much the same as before I came out, like because I've gained just as many, you know? So and I expect that to just continue to go up because there is such a huge community of queer people who watch Ninja Warrior who for years have been like, there is not enough representation. And so, I mean, and they're going to be really excited because Ninja is like doing such a good job between like promoting Ninjas for Black Lives, which you and I have talked about. I know we're going to talk about today, and promoting. There's a new like group within Ninja Warrior called Queer Ninjas Unite.
Cool.
Actually, a lot of queer ninjas, and like,
yeah,
it's really cool.
That's great. I would love to hear you tell us more about the, because obviously there's a lot of brands who really could hear that quote 100 times over, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's been historically, really hard for brands to take a political stand or a social stand, one way or another. But that's obviously has been changing over the last year a lot. And you, I think, have had a lot of experience with this, with not only coming out, but also like the involvement in the Ninjas for Black Lives. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and like some of the groups that you've been able to work with and how you involved Ninja Warrior in that. And, how can other brands get involved with Ninjas for Black Lives or any other social stand? Like, what can they do to get out there and like talk about who they are?
Yeah. So last year, Mr. Floyd was killed 2 days before my mom passed from cancer. And so, that those two deaths are very tightly intertwined in my heart. And, the day that we buried my mom, there was a protest in Houston for George Floyd. And I remember just wishing like I could go to it, like, because there's nothing I can protest, about like my mom's death, and nobody killed her. And I felt the way I did. And so like, I just couldn't imagine. And like, when I did try to imagine, like, it just like I felt like I was going to explode. And it was like, I can't go and protest, like, what happened to my mom. But like, what happened to him was wrong. And like, I can go and I can like I can stand up against this. And I wasn't able to go because I had to be with family, that day. But, what was birthed from that was we created Ninjas for Black Lives. Me and, like 30 other ninjas who, also were standing up online and, really facing a lot of backlash, just with people unfollowing, people being angry. And I know I lost followers there too, but it's kind of like, for me, I would rather have, know that the people who want to follow me are people who are decent people who are for equality and are for marriage equality. And, so I'm kind of like, there are better people out there, and there are people who are going to be attracted by the light that I emit. And like, those are the people that I want in my space. So like, Ninja Warrior as a company, NBC as a production company was so incredible. Like, I reached out to the executive producers and was like, hey, like, here's our plan. Like, here's how like Ninja for Black Lives wants to make an impact on this season's Ninja Warrior. Like, will you help us? And they were like, absolutely. Like, we are here for it. We align with the mission of Ninjas for Black Lives, and together with like Ninja Warrior, we were able to set up like a pledging campaign for the ninjas who represent NFBL. And between that and selling just like merchandise, like t-shirts with the logo on it, we raised over $25,000 in 6 months, I think, for nonprofits, like promoting equality and mental health for Black Americans. It was really, really incredible.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of opportunity for influencers in general to work with more nonprofits that are like near and dear to their heart on there. And you talked a little bit, you and I, before in our pre-call about how Ninjas for Black Lives is not a nonprofit, but you were able to work with some nonprofits to like get them the donations and whatnot that they need. Can you talk a little bit about that and like how did that work with those specific nonprofits? If you want to mention them, of course, like go for it on there.
Yeah. Too. Yeah. We supported the Thurgood Marshall Education Fund, the ACLU, the Loveland Foundation, which provides free therapy for Black women who face the brunt of just so much racism, and all of that money went directly to them through the avenues. Like we used Bonfire, which is like a t-shirt distributor and stuff. Like we use them, and they have an avenue of sending the funds straight to the nonprofits. So we never touched any money, which was much better for us since like we are a nonprofit. I mean, we weren't quite a nonprofit. We might move that way one day, but we just wanted to make a difference. And that doesn't mean handling the money yourself. So, I mean, it really felt amazing. And I think we have like so much opportunity to continue and make a difference long term.
Yeah, definitely. There's a ton of things that here at Kindy that we want to do with nonprofits too, that I think would really align with influencers. So we're super interested in that and however we can help Ninjas for Black Lives. Like, you and I should definitely talk about that more too.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. I'd love to dive in more about like some of the great things that are going on in your life right now, because one thing that I also like really hear and know about your story is like, I think people, when they look at your page, are like, oh, she's a fitness influencer. But I think you're like anything but. I think you're kind of like, you're an everything influencer, right? You're like doing something about cooking. You're doing things, about just like your general health, your life. You and your girlfriend, your partner, T, have moved into a house together recently. Yeah. Like, tell me more about like that experience. And like, are you guys going to be sharing like any remodeling or anything like that? And what's your game plan around, maybe working with brands around that? What do you want to represent? Let's talk to those folks even.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many big things going on. One thing that I always fight against on my Instagram is that I'm a one-dimensional athlete, and that's all I can post about. Cause for a long time, Nora, come on. She feels stuck on the couch. Nora, come. Poor baby. I'll be right back. Otherwise she's going to get loud. Yeah, I mean, like I don't like being put in a box. And the first couple years that like my following was really growing, I felt like, oh, well, these people came to my Instagram to see me do ninja. They came here to see me be strong and train and do pull-ups with 100 pounds like strapped to me, and like that's all I can do. And it actually was really stressing me out for a little bit, that I felt like that's all I could be and all I could do online, and I couldn't post my normal life or people would leave. And eventually I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, if people are expecting me to be this way, like I need to shake things up and I need to just address it. And I did in a great big post one time, and it actually was like wildly successful. And like I was really proud of that, and it just took a lot of weight off of me. And so then I did start posting like me and my dog and me and my girlfriend eventually, like when I came out, and family pictures and travel pictures. And like I have so many hobbies and things that I love that like I shouldn't feel like I can just like stay in these parameters. And so like I post about everything in my life. I post like I love to cook and bake, and like so I post a lot of like what I'm cooking and what I'm eating, and I post about my plants, because I am like the biggest plant mama. Like my house is gonna look like a forest when I'm done. I'm a writer. Like I've been working on a couple of books that I'm hoping to get published, two specifically, like one of collection of poetry and one is more like like a memoir. And all those things get talked about. And I like it because then like people see me as, you know, for what I am, which is a human, instead of, you know, like just for entertainment. And, you know, I want to bring more than entertainment. Like I want to bring like thoughtfulness and gratitude. And, you know, like I just have so much more to share than my pull-ups. So like I make sure to do, I just kind of do a little bit of everything. And I'm really hoping to work with brands. I love like subscription box brands because my followers, I mean, I'm sure this is probably like very general, but like my followers love watching me unbox things. And so, and I would be like so stoked to like get like BarkBox for this one. Like she and I would both create like the most amazing content, because I would be just as psyched to open it as she would be. And I think my followers, like tons of my followers, have dogs and like want to send me their dog's Instagram account for me to look at, like stuff like that. And so like I think like it'd be super cool to work with them, with BarkBox, and a couple of other subscription companies that like I'd really, she just bumped her head. But like there's a plant subscription company called the Plant Club who sends plants once a month, and like vases and pots and like gardening tools, and I would be all over that. I would be so excited every single time. And like I want to work for companies that I'm excited about. So like
I think that's it too, is like, you know, a lot of times I think brands get caught up in like, I want this like perfectly koi feed where the only thing in there is this. And specifically, I get it a lot from food brands, right? They only want to see plates of food. And it's like, well,
those get lost.
Those get lost, and the engagement is usually pretty terrible on those accounts. So, you know, versus like someone like you, like doing some cooking or whatnot as like a part of your life and talking to your audience where they're actually already engaged is helpful. So it's really interesting. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, at times brands can get overzealous. They get really excited about, you know, doing the posts and having you work with them and stuff. Tell me a little bit about a time, and I know a couple examples, right? Or like brands, and we won't mention who they are, but like they got maybe too pumped with your audience, and it has resulted in like hurting their reputation with the audience in general. Maybe you can like talk about, you know, some examples of things that have happened where it just like wasn't a great experience for your audience.
I mean, not just hurting like their reputations. Like I felt like mine has been hurt before based on those companies' responses and interactions with my followers. There have even, I didn't tell you this last time we talked, there are even brands who reach out and ask if they can work with me, and they want access to my Instagram account to message my followers through my
as if it's you,
as if it's me. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I'm not ever going to give anyone access to, you know, message from my account, because that, you know, when I get messages like that, I'm like, that's really shady.
Brands, that's a red flag, just so you know. Right. If you're listening to this, don't do that.
And I have had friends who fell for that and gave access and to companies, and then like they're just messaging every follower and just kind of ruining the rapport between, you know, the influencer and the people who support them. So like that one was pretty crazy. You know, I turned them down, and they continued emailing me for like months. And then eventually I was just like, how aggressive do I have to be for you to stop emailing me, you know? And so like, that wasn't cool either. Like if someone has turned you down once, don't like continue to ask them over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, there was one company in particular that did a lot of things that I would probably advise them not to do. And so, we've talked about this, you and I, and, one of the things was, every person who commented on the post that I made, the content that I made for the brand would then go to those followers' pages and message them and sometimes ask them to promote their brand for free. Like, hey, would you mind throwing this up on your story? Stuff like that, or just messaging them so much that like my friends were reaching out and being like, hey, like, this is kind of weird. I just want you to know that this brand is like messaging me a lot or asking this of me just because I liked it. And that was pretty frustrating for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one thing to like the comment or maybe comment on the comment, but to then like go to their page, follow them, ask them to buy or promote is kind of getting.
Yeah, I think I had a brand that even was like, hey, will you go buy this and we'll reimburse you? And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it was just, yeah, definitely not what you want to hear from like your friends after you're excited about a product or a brand. And then they're kind of bothering, the people that you're trying to like get excited about it. Cause then you're kind of, it's almost like you're not being allowed to do the job yourself that they're you to do. And that's just not really my style. And then there's a couple more. I don't think I've told you. There's a brand I worked for last year, and the communication was just really rough. Like before we even did the shoot, I think we had sent like 20 emails back and forth because it was like just partial information. And then once I signed the contract and we had done the first shoot, then they were like, hey, can you go to the store and pick up the product and shoot, taking a bite of it? And I was like, we already finished this, and they didn't offer extra compensation for it. So I had to ask, because my time is valuable and I don't work for free. And so I think one of the biggest things is not expecting your content creators to work for free. And I think there's like a couple other things that I wrote down. Oh, the giveaways. We talked about this.
The giveaways. Yeah, let's dive into the giveaway.
Giveaways are supposed to be easy and fun. And if you have to go and also like giveaways, the whole point is you don't have to buy anything. There is a company I worked for who, in order to win like 6 months worth of, the product, you had to first buy some. And then like you're just not going to have good engagement or good results with that. Or, like a 4-step process plus buying or leaving a review and, stuff like that. It's just, if you want a lot of people to join, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there is like you said, it should be easy and simple. The more steps that a brand makes people take, then the less likely they are going to engage. And I have found, and as I know you have, there's a lot of conversations that we've had with brands where it's like, that's not going to work. Like, if you want, we can say that, but that's not going to actually lead to anything.
Yeah, but because then if you follow, the parameters that they're setting and you do what they want and it doesn't do well, it doesn't perform well, then it looks bad on the influencer. And it was just like, I don't want to look bad, I really like a brand that trusts me and is like, I want to work with you because I see what you are putting out is good and there's good engagement and your followers love you. And like, how do you think that this would do best? Because your followers and what people get excited about and interested in. And I think the last thing that you and I had talked about is sometimes like I work with brands that I do like one story a week and then like 1 or 2 posts in feed for a month occasionally. And some companies want, they like content approval beforehand and some companies don't. And I don't have a problem with either of those. but if you have like 6 to 8 posts coming up in a month for a brand, and they want to see all of them ahead of time and approve all of them before the month begins, that's just stressing your influencer out, because we have other jobs, we have other ways that we're hustling, and then it also just kind of stifles the creative process of having the time to be like, oh, this is a great idea. Because like I would make them all ahead of time, and then I would have ideas after. And it's like, if we could just do like approval week by week, so that I can come up with fresh ideas, and my stuff isn't hurried and rushed to make a deadline. I think it's just better for the influencer, and more importantly, better for the brand.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, audience, I'm going to ask like one more question, and then if you have additional questions, start firing them off, because we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. So my last question for you, Barclay, is, you've got this, great 2021 has been better for you than obviously 2020. Like, what's next? When is the next season of American Ninja Warrior? Are you going to be doing it? And tell us like what you're going to be doing next on it.
So I'm a very busy lady. Right now, for 6.5 weeks of the summer, I was consulting for Ninja Warrior internationally. So I was consulting for German Ninja Warrior and Ninja Warrior France. And I do a lot of events. So like I've got New York City coming up, and Phoenix and Anchorage coming up for like clinics, Ninja Warrior clinics, meet and greets, stuff like that. And the next season of Ninja Warrior is filming probably March or April of next year. I am definitely going to be competing. And the current season is like, I think, airing on Mondays right now. We already finished filming it and all of that, and the finale's coming up pretty soon. But I love to travel. I love to be busy. So I've been working a lot of events. I'm just really looking forward to partnering with brands that like align with me, that are LGBT friendly, that are promoting and actually like donating to nonprofits and trying to make a positive impact on the world. I definitely would love to work with brands that are like all about home improvement, because like my house is newly renovated, but like I don't really have an eye for like decoration and stuff. So if anyone wants to help me out, like I'm all for that. But yeah, like in the meantime, I'm just really trying to slow down a bit, and whenever I'm at home, and like enjoy my new space, and enjoy just like spending time with my pup and tea, and just trying to foster and create a life that I love living every day, and not really like trying to look forward to the next thing constantly. Like I just want to live in the now. So super appreciate you, and super appreciate this time together. It's been so much fun.
Totally. I always enjoy our conversations. You're one of my favorite people that I've gotten to meet on this journey of mine. It's like my favorite part of my job is talking to influencers and getting to know you guys at the individual level, not just like in my feed. So it's definitely very cool. So we actually have a couple of cool questions in here. I'd love to hear the answer to this one, because this is something you and I actually haven't chatted about, but I don't know how already, is what's your opinion on the Simone Biles thing? With like, I think you probably know more about self-care than most people in the last year. Yeah. Fellow Texan, gymnast, like, what do you think?
Well, so I actually know Simone. She's really amazing. We used to train gymnastics together back whenever I was still doing gym. And we shot a commercial together in 2019 for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. But then it didn't end up airing because it had a 1 year, we signed a contract for a year. And then the Tokyo Olympics 2020 didn't happen. So our contract ran out and it never saw the screen. So I was like really bummed. But as a gymnast, I can say the twisties are a real thing. And if you don't know where you are in the air, if you've lost air awareness and you can't tell where you are doing the level of skills, that that Simone Biles does,
Yeah.
she would have been putting her life at risk trying to compete. And so I 100% support her pulling out of everything that she did and taking care of herself. Because I think a lot of people hear the word mental health and they're like, oh, she's just making an excuse because she's scared of losing. And, you know, Simone is the GOAT. Like, there's no one who could.
Really is.
There's no gymnast in history that has ever been better than her, and she doesn't need to prove anything. And you know, I'm just really proud of her for taking care of herself, because that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to say no and have boundaries when the world is expecting you to take home every gold medal that there is, you know? So I'm proud.
Totally.
I'm really proud of her.
Yeah. I agree. I'm really on the same page with that, of like, you know, being able to say no to things is so much more important than the things you say yes to in the grand scheme of life. And like, she's young, you know, people remember how amazing of a gymnast she is long term, not that she, you know, took care of herself. And like, one more gold medal, 5 more gold medals when you already have a stack like she does, like, it's not worth risking your life. You know?
He even said like her bronze on beam, you know, once she was doing a little bit better, she said that bronze meant more to her than all of her golds.
For sure, right? I mean, I'd love to say I was a bronze medalist personally. Anything, right? Yeah. You know, like, that's phenomenal. You're still the world's best, and you can still be the greatest of all time and still be the bronze. So it's really interesting. Last question for you. What's your advice on how do you become an influencer? Leah wants to know. I'm sorry, that's Olivia. Olivia says, how do I become an influencer? What's your advice?
I think it's all about creating unique content. I feel like all of the time somebody comments and says, how do I get you as a follower? And I'm like, well, like, is your content interesting? Like, am I going to be inspired? Am I going to be learning from you? And I think that's what I like about social media the most, is I like following pages that I learn from, that discuss important issues. So if you have something that you have mastered, start making content where you're teaching others how to do that. And that's going to build your following, I think, the fastest.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love it. Barclay, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited about this. Thank you, everyone, to the audience for joining us. And I couldn't be happier. Again, you're one of my favorite people. So yeah, keep it going. And thanks for being such a good friend to Kindu, for sure.
Love you guys.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. You guys can catch the replay on our YouTube channel. And we'll send it out here later today. So thanks, Barclay. You have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you later.